Well, welcome to the Brothers Dim. We're going to talk about how there's just too much content out there, but first we're going to reflect on something from last week, or what are we talking about?
From last week, a seat at the table, and my question was, are you good at accepting information from people that you don't like? Can you still take some of their info and kind of absorb it? Because you know probably some of the info is good, or are you kind of this person sucks, whatever they say is stupid because I know they're coming from a negative, bad place and I don't like them.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, it's more emotional, so it's not like I don't run the logic of, I think they're a bad person, I'm not going to listen to them. It's more, oh, they're annoying, I don't want to listen to them.
What about if there's people like in the real world in my life and, people that have podcasts or what have you, where I gained a lot of information from them. I was a huge fan, did not think they were annoying. And then something flipped. I saw them behave in a way that I said, oh, that's not a good way to behave as a human. And it turned and I thought, this person sucks. I don't like the way they are. And then there's the moment of, I have all this information from them. And I used to love them. And I used to think they're a good person, a good role model. And now I think they're a poor role model. I don't like how they operate. But I have a lot of knowledge in my head and probably in my belief system from them. And it's like a younger me kind of wanted to say, oh, well, fuck all that. Like, screw everything they taught me. They're idiots. I don't like how they are. I was duped. And a slightly more mature version of me is like, all right, I don't like the person. I don't want to listen to them anymore. I don't really like how they operate. But there was good stuff in there, and it's not, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Or, I want to keep the good stuff and not tie those emotions, those negative emotions, to where I got it from, the source.
Yeah, I think we sort of talked about this years ago when I was bringing up this concept. The thing that we were sort of noticing in other people is how they would sort of bow down to someone. They would find someone they really liked, everything they said, and then they would just keep listening to them. Whereas you and I were sort of talking about, we would have this turn. We just naturally have to sort of flow around. Like, I end up leaving a lot of these people behind, especially the people on the internet.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's healthier to have a cycle, at least to change. You just outgrow stuff if you're growing as a person, if you're gaining new experiences and formulating new beliefs, which I think you should be, you're going to change naturally.
Yeah, and I think that's all a good thing. The problem is finding the new voices. That's just annoying. It's like this extra burden of like, okay, now who's out there? There's like billions of voices on the planet. Only some of them I can listen to. Only some of them are worth listening to. Where are they? How do I find them? And like, you could spend your entire life in this search for nuggets everywhere, but I don't want to do that, right? Like, I wish there was an easier process to discover these people so that I wasn't constantly in the discovery process.
It's a challenge because there's too much content.
Well, welcome to the Brothers Dim. Yeah, this is what we're talking about today. There's too many damn voices, and it's a fucking cacophony of just bullshit everywhere. How the fuck do you get through this?
It's fun to find them. That's a good part. I always like finding someone new, but like you said, now it's so much harder. It was easier when there was obviously less content, and now it's just so much more difficult to find. Why is there so much more content? I don't even know if we have to talk about it. It's just convenience. You now, everyone has the ability to create content, in their palm of their hands. They have their phones, all the equipment and shit that used to be expensive is cheap. It's in your phone. So there's no bar to getting the shit together that you need to create a piece of content.
Yeah, you're talking about the miracle of the internet. This amazing thing that gave everyone a voice. Like, because it used to be, if you wanted the whole country or the whole world to hear your voice, you basically have to write a book or you have to get on television. And that was very difficult. And it required a lot of work and a lot of luck and all these things to come together. Now you can barely have a mind. You just have to be able to swipe on your phone and you can broadcast to the entire world. And so that's magic, and it's a curse. It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I mean, you would think it's a blessing because it takes away the bar. Like, you can't do this unless you have money or unless you know people. And that's, not most people don't like that bar of, well, too bad you don't have enough resources to be able to do this. So there's the blessing, right? Is everybody can do it. Now you would think, great, now these people who have incredible voices and have things to say that couldn't do it because they didn't have the resources can do it. But I guess the reality is when you take away that bar and everybody goes through the floodgates and it's a free-for-all, the stuff that becomes more prominent is, I think, becomes kind of the lowest common denominator, because when there's so much more stuff, then you're competing with everybody. Like, all right, well, if I put a sexy girl half dressed, that gets eyeballs, you get all the likes. Or if I am super flashy and pretend that I know all this shit and whatever, it grabs the eyeballs, especially with the younger people. And those people that I was saying earlier, you would think would finally have a voice and they have a message they want to get out and they have the opportunity, they're drowned out by the rest, the noise of the superficial crap.
The thing that we're struggling to overcome as a society, and like just personally, I can't overcome this, is the filter. So now how do I filter this down to hear the things that are actually will benefit me and are the things that I want to find? Like the methods in place that come to us from Google or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, where they're making decisions in the algorithm and then they're showing you who you should follow, what videos you're going to like that sucks. Like, that's definitely never going to be things that are good for you. It's not going to be stuff that benefits you mentally or emotionally. And then so it's obvious that we shouldn't trust the corporate overlords. But I was really hoping we could just trust the people. Like, I thought that when it came down to just the individual level, really good stuff would float to the top. It would be easy out of all of the voices that you hear. When you hear a good one, then you promote it, you upvote it, you share it, whatever. And then more people, and then, oh yeah, this really is good. And it gives me a good perspective on the world, or it's really entertaining. It's like, it's giving me some kind of benefit. I'll promote that even more. And then just the magic, all of the best parts of society, the best things we're creating individually and as a culture would float to the top magically. And it would just be this parade of awesome shit all the time because it's just infinite content, right? There's infinite content. It's happening every day. And if that was happening, like if the magic really was floating to the top, just think about how everyone in the world would be constantly entertained and mature emotionally, like everything, because they would be getting the best content from all aspects of life, right? The best ways to deal with mental health, the best ways to deal with your relationships. Like, you would be getting all the best content all the time, and everyone would turn into like ideal humans with like fully functional with great minds. That did not happen. We didn't even fucking come close.
I haven't even thought about it like that. Like, Reddit would kind of be that, or we'll just say Reddit, where, yeah, they would upvote and give a platform to those creative geniuses that were just hidden and didn't have the resources, that had a voice, that had a message, that had a fire in them, or, the best information. Because the corporate overlords, they did not do it. And, they have a lot of...
They have an obvious ulterior motive that we can sort of predict.
Yeah. And the sad part is, I guess, the people's version of lifting people up drifted into the same type of thing. Like, the stuff I see that floats to the top of Reddit is not that genuine, good-hearted content that we're looking for. It's more superficial kind of filth stuff. Yeah, the people's version failed as well.
I obviously didn't predict this. I predicted a much better future. I thought the internet would be more fruitful. And I don't see the way out of this. Like, I think it's possible that we will figure out this filter and we will figure out a better way of communicating, but it hasn't happened yet. And like, we've had years of this bullshit happening. And it's also a thing that everyone is aware of. This is another one of those topics that everyone, well, maybe not. Have you heard people talk about this side of it? Like in the mainstream or anywhere?
No, I mean, maybe you've heard here and there, oh, there's a lot of content, but I don't usually hear the addition of what we're saying. Like, well, where's the filter? Like, where's the good stuff? It's just like, hey, it's usually in a good context. There's so many different streaming platforms that it's just good that there's so much more content. You have more possibilities. You can get your content out there more. But I don't usually hear the filter version of, okay, we have this and it's great, so why not, try to get content that's good for people's minds into their minds, good for our youth, and not to just let what happens naturally happen, which is, I keep saying it, but like the sexualized content, the superficial content, the stuff that's really hard for kids to not get sucked into because they're kids.
I mean, the thing that really scared me was when I saw kids, really young kids, who were like into stuff that was so obviously promoting being a terrible human being. Like this was like when the Paul brothers were becoming popular, and you saw these like little 12-year-olds that were in love with them. And the lifestyle that they're promoting is counterproductive to society and to your own mental health.
The reason that people want to make content now has changed. Like, if you're a creative person, if you're an artist, it takes a lot of effort, to make content. And usually it's so much effort that the people who end up taking the step to actually do it have a big passion about it. And the reason that they're doing it, that they're making content, is because they want to affect the world, hopefully in a good way. Help change minds or help people think in this new light and share what they have. That's the way that I think about it, the usual way. And now that everyone can do it, that's not the reason people do it. The reason they do it is because it makes them popular. Like, it's superficial. You make something and people like it and you just want to show yourself off. It's kind of like, I guess this is a stereotype, but actors are more superficial. So they don't want to go through all the work of writing and directing and figuring it out. They just want the work to all be done, and they get thrown in front of the camera and they get all the popularity. Everyone sees them, and that's a stereotype because some actors are doing it for great reasons. But yeah, that's just the difference now. So now that it's easy, the reason for doing it for the masses, I guess, changed to superficial reasons. It's just about looking cool and getting the likes and gaining a following and making money. Because if you make enough friends and followers, and how do you do that? Well, if I show naked myself sexualized, or if I'm just really stupid like Logan Paul, I just got 20,000 followers. People are giving me money. I have a business, and it's not good content for people's minds, like you're saying. It's not the right reasons, but it works. So people want to do it that way.
Okay, first I want to talk about popularity. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like, I think the instinct behind it and like the reason it's a part of our human nature is it would, like in a tribe, like back in the day, you were popular because you were doing something good for the entire tribe, right? The most successful hunter, the best leader, the best planner, whatever. The person who was bringing the most benefit to the tribe, you would get popular. It's a sign that you are benefiting your tribe. Mm-hmm. And so I think that instinct is fine. The problem is now there's this disconnect where the people that are getting popular are not doing so because they're actually benefiting anyone. Mm-hmm. And they're sort of playing upon this, Well, I don't know what it is exactly. Like, I feel like there's a couple of different types of people. There are people who are consciously playing the game. They know what's happening. They know what would make them popular. They know the things to say, and they say them. I think there are people who are unconsciously playing the game. They aren't consciously aware of these things, but they're sort of doing it automatically. Like they're subconsciously aware about what's going on. And then I think there are people who are completely unconscious of the game, but for whatever reason, they play the game really well, where they will become really popular because of just who they are, the things that they're sort of doing naturally. And in all three of these categories, you can be a really shitty person with shitty ideas who is harming society, but you're playing the game well enough to get popular. And so you end up rising to the top, like this disconnect between popularity and then actually benefiting your tribe. That used to be the same thing, and now it's not.
The tribe analogy is great because I feel like the tribe kind of raised the best of the best to the top kind of together. Like if there's a really, really good hunter, I mean, maybe he was sure of himself and confident, and the tribe would be like, oh, this guy hunts, man. This guy's great. He gets the food. So they naturally want to lift him up and, you know, bring him to the top. It's the quality people. And now we're seeing it where that's not what's happening. Like on a massive scale, like with Reddit, it's not, oh, this guy's a quality person. I like listening to him. Let's lift him up. The people that are getting lifted up are, for whatever reason, not the quality, genuine people that we want to see. They're the ones that are just making this, you know, superficial type of content.
I think it, like, the problem arose with scale. Like, I think this all works on a small scale, but once you open it up to the entire globe, now we have problems. I don't know what to do about that because we want to keep the world open, right? It's nice that we can all talk to each other, but it creates this issue, and I don't know how to overcome it other than shrinking the scale down. That's the obvious solution because we knew it worked at one point in history, but now the world is different. So now what's the new solution to this?
I mean, yeah, let's try and find a solution. Well, first, I did what you said. Some people are aware of what they're doing and like playing down. Like they could be making amazing content that's genuine and sincere, but they know that doesn't have an audience. So they dumb it down and make stuff that they aren't necessarily proud of. You know, they don't have the themes they would actually want to say. Those people exist, but I think a majority of people that are making this type of content that we're talking about are not aware, and they're just not thinking deeply about it. They're not thinking, all right, am I adding to the world? Am I helping people?
But if they aren't aware, then why do so many of them sound the same? Like, why, if you look at YouTube, why do so many YouTube videos sound exactly the same? They have the same opening. They say the same thing at the end. Are they so unaware they just see other people doing it and so they do it?
I think so. It's like, it's what they see, what they think is normal. So when you put a camera on them, oh, you have to be super high energy and like phone it in and like capture your audience. I don't know. Are they copying each other?
Well, they're doing things that are these tricks, right? That are almost like things that you would expect a corporation to do. Hey, tell me what you think in the comments, right? That's a quick way to get fan interaction because you know that will increase your popularity or that keeps your channel alive. Just like mentioning, don't forget to subscribe and find me on Patreon. All these little things that are not actually content. Everyone knows you can hit the subscribe button. Everyone knows there's a comment section. But for some reason, 90% of videos have to mention it every single video because it works, right? But you're sort of saying they're unaware that works. They're just copying other people who have been successful.
Or they don't care. Or I mean, they don't think deep enough to care. So they're just doing what works, like hit the like and subscribe button, make videos about what everyone's already talking about, be amped up. They're seeing a path towards success. I want to be a successful YouTuber. That would be a fun ass career. If I can make money just like doing that kind of stuff, then that's great. They're not worried about what they're adding to the world, what they're going to leave behind. Are they going to help people or do this? They're just like, oh, cool, that looks sweet. I'll just kind of do it like that. That's what works. And boom, off to the races. It's hard to describe it because that's like, I've thought about, because I like to make content. You like to make content. I've made content that I enjoy, that I'll watch myself, that I think is great. Nobody watches it. You know, nobody cares. It has no fucking audience. I've had the talks with my friends because we're in the arts. You know, hey, we want to like people to see our stuff. It doesn't work when I do stuff that I want to do that has good, you know, value and quality, in my opinion. So I've had the conversation many times of, well, you know, why don't we just do some of this dumb shit? Like, we could dumb it down. We could talk about something topical. We can kind of cater to what is going to gain popularity. Because if you boil it down, you could make a video that will probably climb on Reddit. You know, you can make it about what people want to see. You could kind of like imitate it and make that content. It's just not the content I want to make or see. So I can't do it. Like, something in me doesn't even want to try to make shitty content on purpose. Because that's it's just, for me personally, you know, it kills me inside to be doing that, or even to think about doing that. So I just have to imagine they don't think they're making shitty content. They think they're entertaining kids and they're doing a good thing. And their content's not shitty. It's valuable. It's not, in my opinion.
Well, here's where the corporate overlords could have benefited us. And because I don't trust them, I guess I want some other kind of curation to come in. But you're talking about if people were being true to themselves and they're not following these bullshit rules that we just mentioned, they're making whatever kind of YouTube video they want, and it's really different and unique. And for those reasons, it does not become popular, right? Like, maybe there's something deep in there, but because it's unusual or they're not following the standard ways to become popular, it's not getting views. Mm-hmm. If you could trust YouTube to seek out these people and go like, oh, here's these people that have a really good message, and they're not just playing the popularity game, like they're being true to themselves, and it would benefit everyone to surface this stuff, mm-hmm. then they could force that move where they make things popular that are a benefit to everyone to become popular, as opposed to the things that become popular are not necessarily a benefit, and in a lot of cases are counterproductive, right? But you can't trust YouTube to do that. And I don't know who to trust. Mm-mm. I don't think there's anyone, because it would have to happen on a huge scale, because this is almost something that you need to have an algorithm for, because there's no human, or even if you got thousands of people in a building just doing this, they would never be able to get through all the content just on YouTube every day. It's an impossible task to filter this.
I don't think the corporations can help, because in my head, if you're a corporation, your number one goal, and it has to be, if you're the owner of a corporation or the CEO or whatever, is to make as much money as you possibly can. As much money as humanly possible. And if you're not doing that for the corporation, you're going to be fired. So I think they're automatically going to sink into the lowest common denominator, because that's going to make them the most money. So they're going to be a part of the problem. Just in my cynical mind of if you're a corporation, that's your MO. So I think what you're saying would work. If it does work, it would have to be a people's version of it, like a Reddit.
Well, we have Reddit, and it doesn't work.
HBO, I think, does a good job. Like I think their business structure, somebody was like, look, just make the best, good quality, genuine, good ass content. Find the good shit. You know, don't make some bullshit. And if we keep making quality, genuine content that speaks to audience, that's, you know, enriching and good, we'll be all right. I think if anybody corporate-wise did that, it was HBO.
Yeah, like that's where branding is really useful, right? Like if you can actually trust a brand, like they did Game of Thrones, right? So it was like the most popular thing ever, and people trust them. And so the next thing they put up is going to get a lot of attention. And so they can take the time to make sure it's very, very good. Like they don't have to play the lowest common denominator game because they've earned respect through good products over time. I don't think there's a lot of HBOs. Like there's a movie studio, I think it's A24. Like they have a really good run of films, so people trust them. How many other ones can you name?
I think that's it. And I mean, the other ones do it. Like they want to make obviously good films so people trust them and they come back and they see them. But it's not the HBO version. Theirs is more, look, these movies need to be global money makers. They don't have to be good quality art. They have to make good money. And you do want the audience to enjoy it so that they go, oh, dude, the Marvel movie is great. I'm going to go watch the next one.
But they're basically doing the same thing every time, right? If there's anything new, it's very subtle. But if you think about Game of Thrones, like that also hit and became massively popular, but it's also kind of unusual. There's not a lot of things you could point to that are like Game of Thrones before that hit, right? There was some fantasy, but nothing that the same kind of serious tone, like, and especially nothing of that big of a budget, right? The closest thing, Lord of the Rings? Like, I think that's very different. So there's this benefit to doing things that are new, that aren't a proven product, right? It's not going to just be a repeat like the Marvel movies where it's like, okay, to make the next popular thing on HBO, we have to do another Game of Thrones, which, I mean, they're trying to do, but I would rather them do a Westworld or something entirely different. So they're not just repeating themselves. And that seems to me like a net benefit for society.
Right.
And when you have all these Marvel movies, you're not getting a lot of alternate perspectives. You're getting the same thing over and over again in your storytelling. And that's something that we really have a problem with. I say that, but there's obviously an infinite amount of unique content out there. Like not the same budget as Game of Thrones, but there's countless, stuff on the internet that's really unique and like, someone put a lot of passion and effort into it. And because they don't have a brand or they're not proven or trusted yet, it fucking just disappears. It's piled onto the shit pile on the internet. And it's that one little nugget of gold somewhere in the pile that no one's ever going to find.
Yeah. And not only that, like that nugget of gold that gets drowned out in the shit pile, that person or whoever made that little nugget of gold probably did so on a very small budget because they didn't, have a studio to give them millions of dollars. So that first nugget of gold might just be, kind of an example of what they can do. So it's awesome. But then imagine if you kind of nourish that nugget of gold. If you give them a budget to make something bigger, then they're like, oh, awesome. And they make something different, creative, and bigger.
And that almost needs to just happen on a human level. It would be awesome if we could rely on Reddit to raise those people up, but it just is not really happening. It has to be like a human being, producer or someone from HBO notices another human being that's talented and then makes a human decision to back their project. So that happens on a very small scale with like a studio. But there's millions of awesome voices out there that HBO is not going to be, they don't have time to get to, and there's not a lot of HBOs. We just keep using Reddit because that's the whole point, is that it floats stuff to the top. I thought there would be some system like that in place of discovery to reveal all of these golden nuggets out there. And it's not happening.
That's why somebody needs to try again. Reddit flopped.
They try all the time. There's different versions of Reddit. There's like different, lots of social media, but it has to become popular enough. Like it has to scale up so that when there's thousands or millions of people on it, it still functions.
Maybe, the cynical version is just, let's say 90% of people just want to see the Marvel movies or whatever's coming out. There's not a high enough percentage of people that care enough to want to find the nuggets. Because otherwise, why wouldn't it work? So there's GoFundMe or Kickstarter or whatever. So there's platforms where if what we're saying is true, if me and you We're like, oh, you know what? That guy made an awesome little gold nugget. You know, he's a nobody, or no one's giving him money, but he started a Kickstarter. Why not kick him some money and he can make a cool movie? So why doesn't that crowdfunding platform work for what we're talking about?
I don't know. Like when you bring those up, my reaction is there were people on Kickstarter and these other programs that were really good at playing the game and had no good product to back up the thing that they were doing. Right? So like you had all these Kickstarters that were just duds.
Yeah.
Where they raised a ton of money and then nothing happened. It sort of falls apart because it just ends up becoming about the game. Like who can play the social media game, the popularity game, who can sell their product the best as opposed to who has the best product.
So that is the recurring pattern. There's a cool product that you would think would solve the problems that we're talking about, and then they are ambushed by shit or, you know, like bad superficial content. So there's Kickstarter, there's Reddit. Cool, these things are going to help the little guy with great ideas float to the top. But instead, people that can play the game on Kickstarter and are flashy and showy and are like, dude, we're going to make the coolest fucking movie, and it works, and everybody gives them money, and they don't even make a movie, or they make a piece of shit. But those are the ones that end up dominating these platforms. Like you said, these platforms exist, exactly what you want, but they get flooded every time by bullshit, dude. By superficial people that want to make the money, that are probably a little more aggressive. I don't know why, but that's just the pattern I'm seeing as we're talking.
I mean, I think it's really difficult to create a system that can't be gamed. Like, I used to try to create board games and like games to play with my friends, or if we were working on video games for a while. And that was sort of what they would always come in on. Like I would sort of arrange a little system. Like, what if the game worked like this? And their minds immediately, like the first thing their minds did was, okay, like how do I break the system? How do I game it so that I don't do what you're expecting me to do and I dominate unfairly? Like you can play a game with two different intentions, right? The goal could be to have fun, or the goal could be to achieve the highest score. And I see those as different. And the people who succeed are the people who are going for score, not for fun, right? It's not about benefiting. It's about the superficial nature of the game, dissecting the rules and figuring out the best way to hack it to get to the top. Mm-hmm. And they're successful. And I don't see a way out of that.
It makes me think of Survivor, the reality show where the person who's going to win is the most awful person. It's the person that will manipulate with just bad qualities for a society, but they'll win because they'll lie to your face, they'll manipulate, they'll use your emotions. Kind of like almost sociopathic. They're the successful ones. They're going to make money. They're going to win Survivor.
Right, like if you become the CEO, there's a really good chance that you're a sociopath because that allows you to play the game and not worry about who you're harming. Mm-hmm. And it's like the opposite of what we want, but it's what works in the systems that we have. Those people rise to the top.
So how did, I think HBO, I don't want to keep harping on it, but that's a good example because how did they take the risks? You know, because as a corporation, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to just make as much money as possible.
Well, here's the thing that surprises me. Like, instead of saying HBO, I'm just going to say, like, Studio A and Studio B. And Studio A, the game they're playing is the superficial game we're talking about. They're trying to hack the system as much as possible. They're not actually benefiting their audience in that they're not helping them mature or grow as people. It's just fluff and tricks, right? Don't forget to subscribe. Like, don't forget to leave a review, comment section, or it's sexy or whatever, right? They're playing these superficial tricks. That's Studio A. And then Studio B doesn't play that game. They're trying to find the most interesting artists, and they're supporting people who have a new perspective, and they're putting their budget behind those people. So they're making really good quality products that aren't playing the game. So Studio A is going to make much more money in the short term, obviously, right? Because Studio B is unproven and it's weird. And the stuff that's playing the superficial game is going to benefit in the short term. But then why, in the long term, why doesn't everyone abandon Studio A? Because what should happen as time progresses is people go, oh, Studio A is fluff. It's candy, right? And now I know that candy's bad for me and I need some nutrition. Well, here's Studio B, and they have this proven track record now of all of the golden nuggets. They're producing great stuff. It's weird. You know, at first I didn't understand it, but then when I watched some, I really liked it, and it gave me some new ideas. And so now I trust Studio B. So in the long run, shouldn't Studio B obviously win? Like, that seems like what should happen if people have minds. But it's not what happens. It seems like Studio A continues to succeed, and Studio B is very rare. Like, we can't come up with that many examples of Studio B that is just good content, but they're not playing the superficial game.
Well, maybe that we've lost, so to speak, societally, because with the iPhone, with the internet, instead of finding all this good content and expanding our minds, I think the battle, or whatever you want to call it, is lost to just convenience and turning our brains to mush and our kids' brains to mush. Because you'd rather sit there, and it's really hard not to eat the candy or to slip through the TikToks and getting a dopamine hit, because it's like for sure entertaining. Adults aren't evolving out of that. So maybe the reason it is that Studio A is winning is because that's just where we're at now. It's just convenience. Their attention spans are lost. They're not even, driven for deeper meaning and finding this stuff that expands their heads. And I mean, we all fall into that. Like we were talking about before, it's not like people aren't aware. Like, if you talk to anyone at the grocery store, they're like, oh my God, kids on their phones, the phones are so addicting. So it's not like they're not aware, but we haven't taken enough personal responsibility to get out of it. So all these nice, platforms that could be beneficial are falling to the lowest common denominator. And you got to start personally, like by making the choice to make your own bed, or, to whatever, have some personal responsibility for the things you do to live intentionally. And maybe we're losing. Like, I still go on TikTok here, and I try to limit it, but it's like, if something exists, you're going to have to check it out and you get curious about it. And then I have trouble sometimes, but like, all right, I've deleted Twitter and Facebook or whatever, but I go back and forth. So I personally struggle with it. So maybe, I don't know, the cynical version is this battle is lost with these attention spans, and I don't even know.
So when you bring up personal responsibility, here's what I think. It feels like, let's just use the candy metaphor, right? That's like the sugary bullshit YouTube videos and stuff on social media that's not benefiting you, but it's really sweet, so your body craves it. That's 99.9% of the pile. Everywhere I look, it's just candy. And I'm dying. And I need some vegetables or some meat, right? But those little nuggets of meat and vegetables are buried under all the candy. So now you're saying, okay, well, we're not going to solve this as a society. You got to go solve it on your own. Well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Because I've been shoveling candy out of the way, trying to find little meat and potatoes, and it's so exhausting and depressing. And I'm not Superman. I can't do this forever. I need some help, right? So I understand it's my responsibility to shovel the candy out of the way, but I think it might be such a difficult task. It might be impossible, right? Like, when we talk about seat at the table, that's my system of shoveling shit out of the way, right? Like, I found some nuggets of culture that I like some vegetables and some meat of people that I trust. And so I just have to keep relying on them, but I want more, right? I want to be able to let people flow into my mind and flow out and find the next interesting nugget. But it requires so much effort in shoveling sweets out of the way that it feels daunting. And the older I get, I think the harder it's going to get. And the crazier the internet is going to get. Like if I just look at this trajectory, in 30 years, my mind is barely going to work, and I don't have a big shovel anymore. I have a spoon left. That's all I have. And I'm using a spoon. And by the way, the pile now has grown to 1,000 times the size, right? So now there's more bullshit, and I have my tiny spoon, and I'm 100 years old, and I can't do it anymore. And so now what are you going to do with personal responsibility?
And don't forget that how sweet that candy tastes. And not only that, they're professionals who make the candy that like add like crack into it, like something that makes it like everything you could ever want, because they're going to make money is in that candy. So it's like super candy. So, I mean, you're right. That's a depressing, bleak outlook. But also, what about this? Because there's piles of candy. And so maybe you take a piece of this candy. Like I watched The Tomorrow War, the Amazon movie with Chris Pratt. And I watched the trailer and I was like, this is the dumbest fucking thing ever. Like a group of soldiers appears and they go, we're having a war 30 years in the future and we need your help. And then Chris Pratt goes through a tunnel and there's white alien dogs running around. And I was with Mom, I was like, this is the dumbest, what the fuck is this? Like, this is so, it just made no fucking sense. It just looks so dumb. And I watched it and it wasn't amazing, but it wasn't bad. Like there was some stuff, some themes that I actually connected to, which is why I didn't turn it off in the first 30. I was just going to watch it for like 20 minutes. And so overall, was it the most meaningful movie? No. But there was stuff that I could take out of it. Like Chris Pratt had a good performance and his character I related to and had a good, something that stirred some stuff inside me. Not for the whole movie, but just momentarily. So I guess to help, there's piles of candy and shit. And if you have to grab a piece of candy and like break it up, maybe there's little morsels that I do find in this candy, which, is, I guess, I'll take what I can get. I guess I'm just trying to think about it proactively. Like I want to find stuff that's like the whole movie is great, but I guess if, I'm just dealing with what I got.
I want candy, bubble gum and taffy. Skip to the sweet shop with my sweetheart Sandy. Got my penny safe, so I'm a sugar daddy. I'm a Hugh Cronin, she my Jessica Tandy. I want candy.
The candy tastes good, and not all of the vegetables taste good.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's some nutrition that I need, but it doesn't taste good. And so if I'm just eating a bunch of shit, well, the easy thing to do is just eat the things that taste good. Watch The Tomorrow War and watch all the Marvel movies. That's a lot easier than watching some deeper film that's difficult to understand, right? Like when you watch a difficult film that might make you grow, it might challenge you and it might not be fun. It might be depressing or confusing. And these aren't things you want to feel all the time. You want just the sugary candy. Mm-hmm. I guess that's where the personal responsibility makes sense. You sort of have to make that decision that like when you come across a vegetable, you're going to put the effort into eating it because it's good. I still think it's hard to identify it. Yeah, but that's just adding to the metaphor.
And it should still be entertaining. You're right. Like some of them, when all you're doing is eating candy or watching TikToks and you try to watch a feature film that isn't, it should still be obviously you're not going to watch stuff that's like not good or not entertaining, but it's hard to transition from one to the other, to watch like a long form thing that's got some meaning after all you've been doing is eating candy and watching TikToks.
For that reason, that's why I had this conversation last week with a young person. A young person to me is like 20. And they were defending TikTok. They thought it was a good lens to sort of see what's going on in society, see what people are up to. And I was defending YouTube. And I didn't make this argument, but the argument I would make now is on YouTube, it's long form discussions. And so I don't have to do as much searching. It's sort of like finding a big steak or something. And it's going to take you 2 hours to watch it. As opposed to on TikTok, if you're going to spend 2 hours on TikTok, you're going to watch hundreds or thousands of videos. I don't know. I think that's the benefit of long form. Almost like reading a book is not going to give you 1,000 little dopamine hits as you read it. It's sort of a longer process. But I think it's more trusted. Like I have more faith I will get something out of a book or a lecture or some longer thing than a little social media spike. But we seem to be going in the opposite direction. YouTube videos get short. Now we have TikTok, and I imagine it will just continue to be shorter and shorter and shorter as time goes on. Or maybe not. Like maybe things are going the other way, because we had Vine a few years ago.
6 seconds.
And then that died. And then Twitter used to be 144 characters, and now it's 288, I think. Maybe we hit rock bottom a few years ago, and now things are going the other way. But I'm just seeing TikTok as these little teeny sweets that maybe there's something good in there, but it's going to be hard to find. And it's easier to find someone that you trust that will speak for a long period of time. So I'm relying on that more.
TikTok, let's differentiate. The analogy to it is a drug. You're taking a hit of something in your arm and you getting a dopamine hit, like you said. It's you can't even say that it's a long-term, like you're enriching or you're gaining information, because from personal experience, I've probably watched 20s, 30, 40, 50 hours or whatever of TikToks. I could tell you none of them. I could say I giggled a lot. I can't tell you anything. You're not getting any sort of insight into society or who's interesting or what's going on. You're putting a needle in your arm and you're feeling good and you're chuckling for like an hour.
How could you talk about a big, complicated, nuanced idea in 15 seconds? It might not be possible.
No. I mean, I go through and there's like quotes from MLK. There's like intellectual stuff in there, but I can't remember. I mean, it's just like, oh yeah, it's still a quick hit in my opinion. Like you have to do the long form to retain it.
It's like I could have sugar shoveled into my mouth easily through an algorithm, or I can take a long time to find a book or watch a lecture series. And that's like having a full course meal. And it's really slow and it's drawn out. And there's a lot of vegetables and things that don't taste good in it. But I can trust that the meal is going to be nutritious at the end of it. And I don't trust the shovel of sugar to actually benefit me in the long run.
You're hindered from finding it. You said it's easy to find that stuff, but I'll like go on YouTube thinking, oh, I'm going to research Puerto Rico because I want to visit there. And then it shows, the stuff you might like. And then I'll be watching, I like that guy. I'll click it. And 30 minutes later, I forgot what I was doing. Or it's the same thing with like when you go on your phone to do something important, like, I have to do a work email, and you see a notification, and then you're on Instagram for 30 minutes and you put your phone away and you didn't even do the work email. So it's, for me, hard to find that stuff, or I guess to have the willpower to sit down, ignore the stuff, the candies, and search, all right, history of Puerto Rico or whatever, and find a few videos, and they are on there. Like, for example, Puerto Rico, I found like an old 20-minute documentary last night. It was very entertaining. It was like old, and I watched it. So if you go down the right wormholes, you can learn about our history or whatever wormhole you want, and it is beautiful. You can listen to your long-form doctors or whatever lectures you would never have been able to before because they post them on YouTube. So the best thinkers and teachers are at your fingertips. You don't even have to really fucking go to school anymore. It's all there. So it did work in the sense, but it's just so hard now, I guess, sometimes to find it, and then more so just to force yourself to ignore the candy and the fluff and like get into it.
I mean, I feel like it gets harder over time. I mean, just here's an example. So last night I finished watching True Detective season 3. I'm a couple years behind. And I'm just remembering a few years ago, I mean, maybe even a decade ago, if I found a show that I liked or I was a little bit confused on and I wanted to get some perspective, I could do a search for it or look on YouTube and find someone talking about it. And it was easier to find a good quality mind or just a good quality argument or explanation. But now, as of today, when I did that search last night to try to find some people talking about it, there's obviously a lot more. Like now there's way more people talking about it, but the people who are at the top of the results list and the people who get the most hits are the people who are playing the game better, right? Mm-hmm. They're in the game of doing these spoiler reviews or explanations, blank show explained, right? But there's no content in the explanation. They're just literally saying the things out loud that you just saw. They don't have a mind, but they know how to sell. They know people want to know what it means. And so they know how to sell that product. And even though there's nothing there in there, it's still, that floats to the top. And anyway, long story short, I found no good content on True Detective. I know it's out there. There's some great, some weirdo just who lives out in the middle of nowhere who just watched the show, thought deeply about it, went on YouTube, posted a great 20-minute video, but he's not playing the game. And so I can't find him. And I think that gets harder over time. I'm just remembering how much easier it was to find good quality stuff years ago, and it just keeps getting harder and harder.
It's definitely getting harder to find. Like you just said, and the stuff that you have to sift through, it's so superficial and annoying at the top that sometimes you just give up. So it's harder to find. I guess the benefit is it's in there. Like now I found that Puerto Rico video, which I don't know, before the internet and YouTube, I would have had to go to the library or something, or I guess get a book, which might even be better, to go and do the effort. Yeah, it's getting harder to find, and it's so annoying to have to sift through the bullshit. But there is a category where I find sometimes it's not as bad. Like the good content sifts through to the top. And I usually find it in very specific, like how-to videos. Like if it's something you need to figure out, oh, how do I fix this issue in Final Cut Pro? Or how do I hang a picture using a special hook or whatever the fuck it is. I feel like stuff like that usually just the most concise or usually the better explanation, the better content sifts its way to the top, but it's very, very specific. And the reason I kind of know or think this is because I was building like a table and I wanted to see if I could stain the table with just like olive oil, cooking oil, or did I have to go to the hardware store and buy these wood stains that like are specific for that. So I looked on YouTube and it didn't exist, and I made it. I was like, well, fuck it. I'm going to do an experiment, put some olive oil next to some wood oil, see if there's a fucking difference. So I made the video, and that video got like 40,000 views. It's like my most popular video. All the videos I make that are like trying to be entertainment or, have messages or whatever, nothing, 150 views. But when you find something specific and you show it, those tend to, I think, sift to the top a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think the more specific you get, maybe the better it gets. Like I still see the same problem. There's still a lot of bad quality that floats to the top. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
What do we do? I mean, it's hard enough for ourselves. I have my own personal struggle with it, as everyone. Too much social media, too much this. And how do you hope your kids, the younger generation, can navigate it? They hopefully have the best parents on earth that are super communicative and, can help and whatever. They probably don't because their parents are probably on their cell phones. So are we just like on the slow march towards mush brains, where you're just linked in, they plug in, a camera into your brain and you just watch whatever and you laugh. I just don't, it's kind of grim. Like I don't see the way out of it.
I mean, that is what it looks like to me. Like I want to remain optimistic and hope that we'll figure ourselves out of this. I mean, this was just me complaining this entire time, right? I see people identifying the problem and then continuing to shovel the candy into their mouths because like that's what's incentivized. Like what's incentivized is the candy, not the nutritious food. but it's such an obvious problem. It seems like it could get solved. It just is not happening yet.
I think you're being the solution, because growing up when we were younger, the only reason I found some of these more artistic videos and movies is because you showed them to me and to, you know, the rest of the family or whatever. But I don't know how you found them or how you still find certain stuff, but younger, I would have just been watching the same shit that everyone else did. I didn't really have any friends that were showing me these like independent artistic movies you would show me that were always, harder to watch almost, but then you get way more out of it. You showed me that stuff. And even more recently, you have a lot of artistic integrity. Like, I would post stuff and I don't really know what I'm posting. I went through the same shit that we're talking about, trying to be a vlogger and superficial and get views. I did all that shit. And you were always more of a force saying, you know, what are we adding? Like, I don't want to make content that's just bullshit. Like, I want to make stuff that's meaningful, and what are we adding? And that shit floats in my head and it sinks in. And then I feel more genuinely like that now of, all right, I don't really care to make some bullshit. I just want to make stuff that's like entertaining or meaningful. So, I mean, you specifically are, you know, helping, and that's, I guess, just by being personally responsible and sharing it, being just, I guess, expressing it out.
Well, so I think like the best way to combat a lot of this is to operate on a human level. Like, if you have friends or people close to you who have a good quality mind and they're a good judge of content, then you can, you know, get some recommendations. I mean, that's hard. I feel like as people's minds are turning to mush, there's less people in my proximity that I can trust. And I don't want to go online for it, right? I want to operate locally and find people nearby where I can trust their judgment. As far as the other stuff you're saying, right now, in this very moment, do you feel like we are producing a handful of candy or a nutritious meal?
Dude, a nutritious meal, because of what I just said. Like, you doing that stuff to me growing up changed my trajectory, you know? And so now we're doing this, you're doing the same thing, I'm involved. And if actually people listen to it, maybe that makes them think, oh, am I creating content just to be this? Or you just think about it a little bit more, and it becomes you. That seed is planted. Because without, who knows my trajectory, but without this, I maybe would have figured it out my own way. It could have taken me even longer, but maybe I would have just still been trying to make these stupid vlogs and just try to become popular for the wrong reasons. Or I don't know, but it definitely helped. What you said to me, it didn't hinder it.
I'm going to argue that only in that just evaluating this conversation we've had, I've had mostly complaints and very few solutions. And this is called the Brothers Dim. We are admittedly stupid. So should we not shut the fuck up and let the sophisticated, intelligent people who have answers populate the internet? Why are we shoveling another nugget on there without a clear answer?
No, they're not doing it. It's hard to say since it's our content, but this probably won't find an audience because it isn't that type of superficial kind of content. Sure, we're mainly just complaining about it, but at least we're bringing these ideas into people's heads and they can kind of simmer on it. I don't know. I think this would be, if people heard it, I think of it as a pro. I don't think of this as adding shit to the pile. Otherwise, why would me and you aren't the type that would probably be doing it.
Well, I think the reason we're doing it is that I need someone to talk to about this stuff. So why are we recording it and putting it on the internet?
Because we have someone to talk to about this stuff. Others have these thoughts and these similar brains, and they don't have someone to call and talk to about it for an hour. So I think, like, if you're listening to this podcast, and like when I listen to it, when you were edit it and I listen back, it's the type where I want to be involved in the conversation. Like, oh, I would have said this, even though I am talking. So I think it's like giving people like-minded like us someone or somewhere to hear these ideas. It can spark their ideas, and then maybe they can, have a conversation with themselves or whatever. I don't know. I haven't thought about it, but I do think it's a pro. This is a pro content, not a negative content.
Yeah, I'm on the fence. Like, I think there's something narcissistic about it, but I also think our intentions are good, right? Like, I'm just judging the fact that I'm not, like, when I do find these people that I enjoy online, like these lectures, these are really sophisticated, intelligent people who have made their ideas concise and they're really communicating well. And I don't think I'm doing that. And so, like, I'm just imagining if I saw someone else doing this, what would I think? Like, if you're not producing an obviously nutritious product, should you stop producing? Is it enough to be good intentioned? Where you're trying to solve it, like we're on the journey, you and I, right? We're trying to figure this out. Our intentions are good, but we're not there yet. We're on the journey. Is it worth talking about it while you're on the journey? Or is it more responsible to get to your destination or get to a place where you have enough perspective that you can construct a really good quality nugget?
I think this one is, because if we're waiting for the end of the journey, then we'll never make anything. Or, because it's never going to end. And these are just problems. We talk about stuff and issues that are happening right now. And I think we dumb it down, or not dumb it down, but we just talk about it, I guess, simply and plainly. I mean, the people you're talking about who you listen to lectures and they're professionals in their field, yeah, they produce something different. You're getting a nugget of, oh, I didn't know that about biology or whatever it is. And you're getting a very specific nugget. Like, okay, here's an example. Like when I listen to these very sophisticated intellectuals make their points, I wish that they would slow down and explain what they're talking about. And like they have an hour or 2 hour lecture and they'll breeze past something that I don't understand that they could talk about that for just an hour. So I think we don't breeze past anything. We pick something very specific and we stay on the thread. We try to, and we go over the specific topic in a dumb, simple kind of way. So that if somebody wants to hear about this, too much content, for example, and where else are you going to go to get that nugget of somebody to dig into some small, stupid thing so deeply and so simply and stupidly?
Yeah, I mean, you say dumb it down. I guess, like, I do trust our intentions in that I think we dumb it down only because we're dumb, but it's not because we're condescending to the audience. That's the thing I don't trust. Where it's like,
that's what I mean.
Oh, I'm so sophisticated, I'm going to now preach and tell everyone else what to think because I'm better than you, and now you should do what I'm saying. Like, we're not coming from that place. We're operating from our own lives, and maybe we're not super sophisticated, but at least we're being honest. And we're not talking down to anyone.
Yeah.
I hope not. Like, I hope I don't come across as preachy as I'm complaining about all of these things. But these are just these are things that I'm struggling with.
Exactly. I'm not dumbing it down. I'm redlining. I'm operating at my highest possible. I'm trying really hard just to stay on thread, to try to make my one point. I'm fucking redlining and I'm closing my eyes and trying as hard as I can.
This is the best we can do.
I couldn't dumb it down. I'm trying as hard as I can to sound dumb as I am. I'm definitely not dumbing it down for anybody. I focused as hard as my brain could, and that's all I can do.
Yeah, this is what you get.
That's my peak.
All right, thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week.
Yes, thank you.
I need candy, bubblegum and taffy. Get my way, punk, you're gonna get your ass beat nasty. Do it to your dad, please embarrass your whole family. Just cause you came between a kid and his candy. I need candy. Any kind will do, don't care if it's nutritious or FDA approved. It's gonna make me spaz like bobcats on booze. A hyperactive juice that only I can produce. I've used a giant drill, born straight into hell, releasing ancient demons from their sleep forever spell so they can walk upon the earth and get resituated and hawk to diet pills and people enter created. I need candy, must have candy, eat candy till I'm dead. I'll kill you for some candy, give me candy, candy head. Why you keeping all the candy? Who made you candy king? If you don't give me some candy, I will make the lady sick.